What is going on, good people, friends, Romans, countrymen? I know in the past I have talked about selling off my video game collection. I've been collecting games for years and years and years, but unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, I haven't been gaming for years and years and years. I once upon a time was a huge gamer, and I think I touched on it on one of my much earlier videos about becoming addicted to playing games to the point where I was ignoring family and friends, and it just wasn't a good thing. But I still enjoy video games, but I just enjoy them now and then. And mostly, it's just something I can pick up on a handheld and play or on my phone and play. It's the days when I could sit down with a controller in my hand in front of a television and just game for hours on end. Those days are all but over with. So I'm proud of my game collection. I am. I've amassed over 1,200 titles across multiple systems, and to some of you hardcore collectors, that'd probably like fill up like one corner of your collection. But I've spent quite a bit of money on mine, and I don't know why I was so proud of it. Like it's like people knew that I collected, but wasn't impressing anybody, and I just kind of got to a point where I've been asking myself, what's the point of having them? Like, I don't play them, and they really do just sit on my shelf gathering dust. And, I have something like 20 grand tied up in my collection across, that and all the systems and the peripherals and whatnot. And I don't know. I can't do it anymore. I still like gaming. Don't get me wrong, I do. And I like paying attention to gaming news here and there. And I still want to run this primarily as a gaming channel, and I will. But I'm also going to be delving more, I think, as I move forward into a different form of collecting, something that actually I'm much more enthusiastic about, which is really collecting old toys and devices and whatnot that I grew up with, that I have good memories of. And with many of my games, I don't really have any particularly nostalgic attachment to them, so I've just decided to let them go. I've already sold about, I want to say 10 or 15 of my most expensive games on eBay already. I'm in talks with a local buyer here about buying a huge chunk of what I have left, but I'm not going to be getting rid of my entire collection. I think Iowa Retro Gamer Dad knows what I'm talking about. He's gone through this, purging the collection and only buying what he intends to play. And that's going to be my philosophy moving forward. Now, as for what I keep, I'm going to keep maybe 8 to 10% of my existing collection. And the games that I keep do have to meet certain criteria. I have to either have a strong nostalgic attachment to them, or there's something about them that just I'm really intrigued to play them at some point when I do have the time. And I can't say that about most of my games. I really, truly can't. Very few of the ones I'm keeping are even what one would consider expensive, because it's been my experience that expensive and fun to play are not necessarily the same thing. I've had two different copies of, for example, Rule of Rose for PlayStation 2 over the years. Y'all, I didn't particularly enjoy the game. I get that it's expensive. That's all well and good, but expensive doesn't mean fun. Some of the most fun games in the world to me are ones that I didn't spend a whole lot of money on. There's quite a few on the old NES that I think are tragically overlooked that you can still buy for, under $10. And by that I mean games like Magmax or Blaster Master, Battle of Olympus, Shadowgate. I mean, these are truly great experiences they won't cost you an arm and a leg. But yeah, I mean, game collecting, I guess I get it becomes an addiction after a while. The men in my family in particular have addictive personalities. Most of them have been alcoholics. Somehow or another, I dodged that bullet. I don't care for alcohol, so that's not my addiction. Collecting quickly became an obsession, though. And I've been through this twice. Not necessarily with game collecting, but just collecting. I back in the early 2000s was a huge action figure collector, and I would always keep them in the packages. And I spent so much money on them only to reach the same point where one day I woke up, I'm like, these figures are doing me no good. They're bringing me no joy. And I sold off like 99% of them. I think I have 4 or 5 left, and they're mainly Superman figures. And that's just because I freaking love Superman and wanted to keep those. And I've reached that point again with gaming. So I think moving forward, I have to be very careful with collecting in general and not letting it become too much of an obsession, or something can be a passion without being a compulsion. And when it does become a compulsion, then you really need to probably step back and be like, hey, what am I doing here? It got to the point with me with gaming where I was always on Whatnot, or I was going into the game shops 4 or 5 times a week, going into Goodwill every chance I got, hoping to find a game. And I'd say probably 3 or 4 months ago, I really just decided to just cool my heels with buying games. And now, when I go into Goodwill, it's really just to look around. Sometimes I'll run across a cool little old piece of tech or something I might buy, or a book. I bought The Essential Calvin and Hobbes the other day, that compendium for $2, and I was really stoked about that. And I stopped at one Goodwill, the one in North Little Rock, and I don't go to that one very often at all. And they actually, it's funny, now that I'm no longer looking for games, I'm finding games on shelves. It's just funny how that works out. But I looked at them like, oh, they have games. Cool. And I kept on walking. I didn't feel any need to buy the games. And for me, honestly felt like that was a bit of a personal breakthrough, that I could see something that I used to actively pursue and have it right in front of me and be able to pick it up for cheap, and just being able to say no and walk away. But I get game collecting. I think there are some people that do collect legitimately because they enjoy playing games, and they love it. They love the experience, and it does bring them happiness. And if that's you, then hey, more power to you. Do what you love in life, as long as you're not hurting anybody. However, for me, it was just, I don't know. It was just getting to be overwhelming for me. And I used to smoke. That is one vice I had back in the day. I smoked for about 5 years, from like 18 to 23, and I quit doing that. And the main reason that I quit smoking was because, well, I knew it was bad for me, and it was costing me way too much money. And it was bad for me physically, but I've started to feel like game collecting has gotten bad for me mentally, and it's also too expensive. And I wanted more balance in my life. Video games are great. They're a great outlet from the stresses of daily life. But my priorities have changed in my old age. I'm pushing 50 years old. I know I got a lot more years in back of me than I do in front of me. And my children and my wife, my family, our future together, that is where my mind and heart are right now. That they bring me more happiness than any physical thing ever could, than any game. And a matter of fact, because I used to fight so much about gaming with my ex-wife, I'm not going to talk bad about her. Our marriage did, I'll say, her infidelity was kind of the final nail in the coffin, but we weren't terribly compatible. And I kind of put my own entertainment ahead of her and our son, and that's a guilt I have to live with. And I never wanted to do that to my current wife and our kids. So my rule with gaming, ever since I've been with her, has always been, when I have nothing else to do and no other obligations, and if she's at work and the kids are asleep and I still, I'm awake, I'll play games for a little bit. I might play for like a half hour here and there. But if they're up, I'm not gaming. I'm just not, because I don't want one day my children to look back on their childhood and be like, oh yeah, daddy he was there, but he was just always playing video games. He never had any time for us. And maybe you have the sort of self-discipline where that's never an issue for you. And if that's you, congratulations, that's awesome for you. That's just not how I'm wired. And I can't do it anymore. I think game collecting, it's definitely right for some people. And like so many other things, it's not, that doesn't mean that it's right for everybody. And it's no longer right for me, and I have to step away. As I said, that doesn't mean I'm not going to still make videos about video games and about gaming topics, because Lord knows I see stuff happening at least once or twice a week that I have some pretty strong opinions on, usually more based around the content of the games. But I'll get to that in the future. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know, not that you care nor that you should care, but I'll just say, if you're a game collector and it has become obsessive for you, like if you're just chasing games so much, like if you wake up first thing in the morning and you're thinking about chasing games, if you're like thinking about hitting up all the yard sales for games and all the thrift shops for games, it's just games, I would encourage you, put that on pause for a while and sit back and really do some self-reflection and evaluation and ask if it's really benefiting your life, if it's making your life better. Because if it's not, and it's not you bringing you any joy, then there's no reason to do it. I mean, life is short enough as it is without investing so much time on things that don't even bring you happiness, you know what I mean? Anyway, I think here in the next week or so, after I've managed to divest myself of most of these games, I'll probably do a video on the ones I'm keeping. I can go ahead and tell you right now that I am keeping my old Nintendo and all my NES games. I have like 60 some odd of them because they do meet that criteria. I have that nostalgic and emotional attachment to them. I have all these great memories of the system and the games, and I just like being surrounded by things from my childhood and things from my early adulthood, things that just, they kind of improve my world, at least to a certain degree. Anyway, that's it for now, y'all. Thank you for listening to me ramble. I see that I've gotten some new subscribers without even posting videos recently, so to those last 2 or 3 folks, hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And if you feel so moved to subscribe to this channel and like it, I would be over the moon for that as well. Like I said, just because I'm not collecting actively anymore doesn't mean that I'm still not going to buy the occasional game here and there, but it's going to be, and I encourage you to go watch the Iowa Retro Gamer Dad YouTube channel and subscribe to him, because he's gone through this whole experience about going from just being stupid and like collecting and buying every game that come along to getting rid of all of it and then just buying what he wanted. And I think that's why I like his channel so much, because I see a lot of myself in him, and if you see a lot of yourself in him or you see a lot of yourself in me, maybe rethink things. Anyway, y'all take it easy, and as always, pick your battles, because life is too short to die on just any hill, you know what I mean?
Being strung out is not a game. So if you're thinking about using crack, don't do it.